Eve of the first preseason game, 49ers have made 5 moves today. A couple of them come as a surprise, but I would caution people against overreacting because the 49ers can turn around and effectively reverse some of these moves. But they did waive or cut Junior Bergen, the wide receiver who had made big strides from year 1 to year 2 in the punt returner competition. They also cut the Australian punter, Jack Bomeister. And KJ Henry, he got hurt during the joint practice with the Titans. They waived him with an injury designation. The 3 players the 49ers signed, Eli Apple, familiar face, year 11 in the NFL, cornerback. Xavier Thomas, who'd been with D'Amico Ryans and the Texans last year. He is a Clemson product, outside linebacker, defensive end, whichever way you want to look at it, that replaces a Clemson product in KJ Henry. And the running back, Zamir White. Now, the reason why people should not think that this is final is because the first preseason game is tomorrow, and the 49ers are not planning to play their starters. Because the 49ers are not planning to play their starters, and because some guys are unavailable across the 90-man depth chart, you could even take a look to see exactly who's unavailable by looking at this. The 49ers need to make sure that they are bolstered enough to finish tomorrow's game at all positions. So you're typically going to be rearranging some deck chairs the day or 2 days before the game to make sure that you have players at positions that might be a little bit thin. For example, at cornerback, no Deommodore Lenoir, no Renardo Green, and no Upton Stout in all likelihood tomorrow. So they need Eli Apple to come in and play some snaps for them against the Titans. They obviously needed to replace KJ Henry, so they brought in Xavier Thomas. And at running back, they only had 3 running backs at practice yesterday because Christian McCaffrey is not going to play against Tennessee tomorrow. Jordan James already out. The 49er, Kalen Black, out right now with the adductor injury. So they had Khalil Herbert. They had Patrick Taylor Jr. yesterday. And the 49ers had their third running back, Sincere McCormick. But they need a 4th to finish this game against the Titans tomorrow. So they added Zamir White. To add a player like Zamir White, to add a player like Eli Apple, you have to cut somebody. The 49ers cut Junior Bergen. They cut Jack Bomeister. Now, there's a chance, and we've seen stuff like this happen before, that assuming these guys clear waivers, and I'm fairly certain that Jack Bomeister will clear waivers. I think Junior Bergen may be a closer call, but I think he will too. There's a chance that once these guys clear waivers, the 49ers can just re-sign them after the game on Thursday. Because there's a punting competition, has been going on for San Francisco between Bomeister and Corliss Waitman. Bomeister's the righty, Corliss Waitman is the lefty. It could be that Brant Boyer wanted to give this first game to Corliss Waitman, the lefty, and then he's going to give the second game to Jack Bomeister, and he knows that Jack Bomeister is not going to be claimed on waivers. The 49ers need one of those roster spots for Zamir White, or they need a roster spot for one of the other 2 signings that they made, so Eli Apple or Xavier Thomas. So the corresponding move was to waive Bomeister and then potentially bring him back after the game. We don't know if the 49ers are doing this, but we know that they've done roster moves like this before. Case of Junior Bergen, they could say, well, who do we waive for this game to make room for Zamir White because we need an extra running back and we've got a lot of receivers. They probably don't want to waive Will Pauling a few days after Leonard Hankerson said that he's the most physical receiver on the 49ers because there's a chance that he would be picked up on waivers. So you waive somebody like Junior Bergen, even if you want to keep him in the building. They wanted to keep Junior Bergen in the building throughout all of last season on the practice squad. Again, it would not surprise me if they were interested in keeping him in the building beyond today, even though they waived him. So it could just be a little example of roster Tetris for the 49ers. If Bomeister is indeed done, if this is the end of the punting competition, and again, we don't know for sure yet, but if he is, then he's an Australian, and the 49ers are going to Melbourne. They're playing in Australia in week 1, and that would mean the 49ers would not have an Australian player on their roster heading into Australia. One reason that they've been running a punting competition over the course of this camp has been to audition returners because the punt return job is open right now. Sky Moore left in free agency to the Green Bay Packers. The ball comes off the foot of a left-footed punter different than it does off the foot of a right-footed punter. So Brant Boyer, who's the 49ers special teams coordinator, has wanted to audition his punt returners in a very thorough way, and that means that he wants to see them catch punts from a left-footed punter, that's Corliss Waitman, who's still on the 49ers, and a right-footed punter, Jack Bomeister, who was waived today. 49ers have about 3 weeks of data now in that punt return competition, only at practice, not in a game. Maybe Brant Boyer's seen enough, but again, maybe he may give a game to Corliss Waitman. And who knows? Jack Bomeister took him a while to get his visa to be able to sign with the 49ers. Didn't sign until right before training camp started when they got that visa situation sorted out. So maybe he is not fully finished with San Francisco yet. There's been some talk online about the 49ers left guard position. It seems like there's some hand-wringing online. People are worried that the 49ers are caught off guard by what's going on at left guard. And what we've seen happen over the course of the past week is that Connor Colby has taken a back seat to Robert Jones, the veteran. I think that the 49ers clearly expected this to be a battle that lasted all of training camp, though. And I think that there was a lot of premature hype on Connor Colby, which was the result of people only focusing on what the 49ers were saying about Colby's progress. So all of a sudden, now that Colby has moved out of the first team, it's a bigger letdown. But I dug up some clips from June, from way before training camp, from Chris Furster, and just listen to hear Chris Furster has to say about Robert Jones and about the left guard battle. This is really worth your listening.
I don't know that one person's going to clear-cut win the job. If you were to say who's the best run-blocking guard of the guys competing at left guard, I think it's Rob right now. And that's how we've been doing it. It's hard to tell. But he does exhibit a lot of those good traits. I don't know that one person's going to clear-cut win the job. If you were to say who's the best run-blocking guard of the guys competing at left guard, I think it's Rob right now. And that's how we've been doing it. It's hard to tell. But he does exhibit a lot of those good traits.
Okay, so 2 separate quotes there. I don't know if one guy is going to clear-cut win the job. This is in early June. Chris Furster is acknowledging that he's not sure if the 49ers are going to go with a singular left guard. They might rotate at the position. They have done that in the past under Furster before. Bill Walsh used to rotate offensive linemen. It was something that kept them fresh. He figured, hey, defensive linemen are rotating. They stay fresh. Why can't offensive linemen stay fresh? So the 49ers did it at offensive tackle. Chris Furster has done it at guard. He did it a little bit at guard last year with Ben Barch and Spencer Burford, and he straight up said in June that he anticipates this left guard battle coming down to the wire or even going beyond that and maybe not even having a clear-cut winner. So the fact that Colby was in there as a first-teamer before he was replaced by Robert Jones a few practices ago, I don't think comes as a massive, massive surprise. 2, you heard Chris Furster say, and that was from early June, that the 49ers' best run blocker in that left guard competition is Robert Jones. So the fact that Robert Jones is taking first-team reps right now, again, should not come as a surprise. Connor Colby was not good for the 49ers last year. I have a lot more in terms of quotes from Chris Furster talking about the improvement that Connor Colby will need to make if he has any shot at starting playing time for the 49ers this season. He was forced into the job by default last year when the 49ers had that injury to Ben Barch up front. But Connor Colby We are back. Not really sure what happened there, but yeah, we froze out, but we're back, and 650 of you have stuck around. So thank you for that. I don't know why I lost. Okay, I think that was a StreamYard issue, Mike. I've never seen that it just went kaput on me all at once. Everything kind of just shut down, but the actual computer didn't. So I think that was on the StreamYard end. Anyway, we'll probably lose like 20 or 30 of you who did not have patience to wait 10 seconds. But we're back now, 10 minutes in. And I was talking about the left guard position. Robert Jones is a strong, strong run blocker. He did it for Mike McDaniel in Miami. He was actually drafted the regime ahead of when Mike McDaniel came in to be the head coach. He was thought of more as a power blocker, but he stuck around for the zone scheme. And what Mike McDaniel really learned is that he can use a powerful body in a zone blocking scheme at that left guard position. That's where you really want your mauler in there. And I think that Kyle Shanahan and Chris Furster have taken similar notes over the years, and they like to have a big physical body at left guard. Robert Jones actually had his best practice of training camp in the joint practice against the Titans, and the Titans have Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers. The Titans have one of the better interior defensive lines in all of football. Robert Jones got into one of the 7 or 8 fights that we saw yesterday. Most of them happened with the 49ers defense against the Titans offense, but there was one where Robert Jones was involved against one of the Titans defensive linemen on that side of the field, and he more than held his own, not just in the fight, but also in the practice yesterday. So you need some muscle. You need some heft at that left guard position. You need to be able to run the ball better than the 49ers did last year. I know that we blame a lot of what happened when it came to the lack of explosiveness in that running game on the 49ers perimeter blocking, and they've obviously invested a lot in receiver to try to improve that. But you also want to have a good left guard because there's going to be some pulling action. 49ers have mixed in gap scheme stuff. Go back to the game against the Atlanta Falcons. They didn't have to do a whole lot of pass protection in that game. That was actually Connor Colby's best game. That's when he pushed Christian McCaffrey across the goal line into the end zone. But that game saw the 49ers run more power gap scheme stuff than zone stuff. It was a significant change because they wanted to take some of the focus off of their wide receivers. That they knew that their wide receivers just weren't good blockers last year. Too many personnel losses there. Just wasn't set up for the 49ers in a typical outside zone way. So they played it in a phone booth. They condensed things against the Falcons. Connor Colby, who played his college football at the University of Iowa, where they run power all the time, where they run the ball all the time. They don't throw the ball a whole heck of a lot. He thrived in that game. But the 49ers don't run gap scheme power stuff exclusively or the majority of the time in the vast majority of their games. This is an outside zone-based running team, an inside zone-based running team. Takes a slightly different skill set there. Somebody like Robert Jones has shown that he can do both, right? Robert Jones, when he played for the Miami Dolphins, coming off of a power-based approach that was espoused by the regime that drafted him before Mike McDaniel, he was able to port his strength into a new system that demanded more dexterity, that demanded more nimbleness. And he was able to do both, and he was the best run blocker in his own blocking scheme. And now the 49ers believe that he is the best run blocker for the 49ers at that left guard battle. Now, the big question with Robert Jones is going to be pass protection. Chris Furster has spoken a lot about the need to protect better, and that's if he can stay on the field on third down, and who knows, maybe they're going to rotate. Maybe they're going to have a designated pass protector at left guard, and then they're going to have a mauling run blocker in Robert Jones. I wouldn't put it past Chris Furster if none of the options are ideal. But I think that it's very, very clear that he's ahead in this battle because of his run blocking and because the 49ers are starting to develop some extra confidence that he can anchor down in pass protection and do what the 49ers need to in that realm. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions. Again, I know that we froze out there for just a few seconds, but those of you just joining, I am going to show you the transactions that the 49ers made today. And again, warn you that the 49ers can potentially bring back a couple of the players whom they waived, Junior Bergen and Jack Bomeister. We're going to watch to see if they clear waivers tomorrow. I certainly would expect the punter, Jack Bomeister, to clear waivers. Junior Bergen probably will. He's been known as a scrappy player who probably will have to punch his ticket as a punt returner at the NFL level, but he's been making way, way more catches. Seems to be good rapport with Brock Purdy this training camp. He has made real strides as a receiver year 1 to year 2. And he catches almost everything thrown to him over the middle. Really tough receiver Junior Bergen is becoming. Obviously not as physically gifted as somebody like Will Pauling, somebody like Jacob Cowing, who has 4.3 speed, but he's been more productive than somebody like Jacob Cowing, and it would not shock me if the 49ers, if they are able to, following this first preseason game, bring him back. But they needed those roster spots for Eli Apple and Zamir White. Zamir White's a running back formerly of the Raiders. 49ers now have 4 running backs who are going to be available for this game tomorrow because, as we know, the starters aren't going to play. That means Christian McCaffrey is not going to play for San Francisco. Look, the depth chart is kind of a mess right now because 49ers have so many guys out at running back. I mean, between McCaffrey, Kalen Black, Jordan James, and Isaac Guerrero, that basically takes up the entire running back row. So I have to go down to the fullback row where Kyle Juszczyk is also out. Look, we could even put injury shades, unavailability shades on Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk. Essentially, everyone who I project to make the 49ers 53-man roster on this side of the dividing line is shaded in the injury color for San Francisco. We've got Savannah Lombardi watching the show today. She's making a little bit of noise. It's funny, but she's sad that Christian McCaffrey is not playing. Still 100th percentile relative athletic score, by the way. We'll have to check in with an updated measurement in a little bit. But yeah, she's going to watch tomorrow, and she's not going to see McCaffrey. She's not going to see Juszczyk. She's not going to see Kalen Black. She's not going to see Isaac Guerrero. She's not going to see Jordan James. I probably shouldn't say all this because she's going to start getting really noisy right now. But she's going to have to watch Patrick Taylor Jr. She's going to have to watch Khalil Herbert, Sincere McCormick, and Zamir White, whom the 49ers added today. Those are going to be the 4 running backs in the game for San Francisco tomorrow. If you want to go through who we might see at quarterback, well, I doubt that we see Mac Jones. Obviously won't see Brock Purdy. It's probably going to be a timeshare tomorrow between Curtis Rourke and Adrian Martinez. Probably a half for both of those quarterbacks. I would be shocked if Mac actually played tomorrow. More of a chance than Brock Purdy, of course, but probably will not play. At receiver, I highly doubt that you're going to see Mike Evans. You're not going to see Deebo Samuel. You're not going to see Demarcus Robinson. Now, will you see Dejon Stribling? Maybe, just because he's a rookie. They might put him out there. You're going to see Jordan Watkins for sure. You're going to see Kadero Hodge. You'll see Malik Turner. Jacob Cowing is still hurt, so I doubt that you see him. Wesley Grimes, Trent Irwin, Will Pauling. Those guys will play. Obviously, no Kittle. He's currently for the 49ers on that PUP list for San Francisco, but no Kittle, probably no Tonjes, probably no Farrell. The tight ends tomorrow in all likelihood are Braden Willis, Hayden Rucci, and Josiah DeGuara. Offensive line, you won't see the starters. You won't see Valerian Lowe. You won't see Brett Toth, but you'll see Carver Willis, Enrique Cruz Jr., Austin Pleasance, Colby, we're talking about him. Doug Kramer, the new center for San Francisco. He should play tomorrow. Keon Smith, Brandon Parker, Drake Nugent, Isaac Alarcon, all those guys I would expect to be suited up. Defensive line, of course, no Michael Williams on the 49ers PUP list. Obviously, no Alfred Collins or Osa Digizua or Nick Bosa, who's dealing with the knee tendonitis. Keon White has been dealing with the adductor injury. So the 49ers will send probably somebody like CJ West, Grayson Halton, Romello Height, maybe Sam Okawonu, maybe not since he's a veteran. They've got plenty of depth pieces to get through a game, though, between Quentin Bell, Titus Leo, Ogbo Okoronkwo, and the newly signed Xavier Thomas today. Are you guys losing the roster? Oh, that's too bad here. Let's get this roster back up on the screen. I think that's better. StreamYard is really, really buggy tonight, isn't it, Mike? That's unfortunate. I don't think the screen is black anymore now, Mike. Is it? Let me know. It had disappeared and had gotten really, really small. You guys can see me, right? I'm just going through the roster as we speak. Now I can put this back on the screen. Yes, it's fixed now. I don't know what it is with StreamYard, but now it just disappeared again. No, it's back. If you guys can see it, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. It helps the algorithm, so at least I could take advantage of these technical issues. Or I could just put my face back up on the screen. I'm sure you guys would rather look at the roster, though. I mean, kind of boring. Wouldn't you rather see who's playing tomorrow? Well, now the baby's upset. So anyway, we go on to linebacker. I'm going to open it up, and we're going to give it one more try. Mike, give me a no. I don't think it's working, Mike. Give me a thumbs up. No, it's too. You're just gonna have to listen to me narrate the roster. It's too inconsistent. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell you who's gonna play, who's not gonna play at linebacker. Obviously, no Warner. Obviously, no Greenlaw. I think that tomorrow is going to be a fun day to watch Nick Martin. It's going to be a fun day to watch Jaden Duggar, Larry Worth. Yesterday, the coolest thing about the joint practice yesterday for the 49ers against Tennessee was when Will Levis, who's going to play at Levi Stadium tomorrow. I think that's great, Levis at Levi Stadium. But when Will Levis rolled to his left and the 49ers had both Duggar and Larry Worth in the game, there was nearly 14 feet of combined wingspan between two players. So both of these guys, one of them has a 7-foot wingspan, right? Jaden Duggar has a 7-foot wingspan, only stack linebacker I've ever seen. And I've done some research and I can't find another one with a wingspan of 7 feet. Larry Worth is 6'4" as well, and he's got a wingspan of just under 7 feet. Both of these guys were in pursuit of Will Levis, the Titans quarterback, and both of them had their arms outstretched. So nearly 14 feet of combined wingspan, arms outstretched, one arm going high. It completely blocked Levis's line of sight, and he just had to throw the ball away. And Larry Worth, the rookie out of Arkansas, was fired up. This is all part of the Raheem Morris vision defensively. He wants length at the linebacker position because he's trying to create a new position. It's called the fever back position. The reason they call it the fever back position is because you have to learn multiple different spots. And because a fever, I guess this is what KJ Wright said, a fever means that you're sick. You have to be a football sicko. You have to be so obsessed with football because you have to know 3 different positions and you just have to be studying the whole time to be able to play it. Jaden Duggar, Larry Worth, Romello Height, and Nick Martin are all in contention for the fever back position. Now, there's going to be maybe 2 fever backs, and I think ultimately Raheem Morris would love if there were like 4 fever backs for the 49ers, all of whom specialize in a different skill, but all of whom can replicate the skills of the others. So that way the opposing offense doesn't know what you're going to bring. The big problem for defenses in football right now is that offenses bring you a Christian McCaffrey type, and you don't know if he's going to take a handoff or if he's going to go out on a pass pattern, or if you're really unlucky, if he's going to throw the football. And we've seen Christian McCaffrey throw a touchdown pass for the 49ers. We also have seen Christian McCaffrey throw a touchdown pass back in college. That happened at Levi Stadium too. It was against USC. It was in the 2015 Pac-12 title game. That was a foreshadowing of what we saw in 2022 at SoFi Stadium against the Rams. McCaffrey to, I guess you guys don't want me to say his name, to Brandon Ayuk. But McCaffrey threw a touchdown pass, ran for a touchdown pass, and caught a touchdown pass in the same game. When these offenses are throwing these amorphous players at defenses that can do anything, defenses, I think, have been caught flat-footed over the course of the past decade or so. So now what you're seeing is defenses trying to evolve. That's what Kyle Shanahan is doing with the 49ers. And the defense, the way that the 49ers are trying to evolve is that they're trying to add this level of length to the second level, to the linebacker level, that can also give them enough length to effectively pass rush. So somebody like a Jaden Duggar, who has the 7-foot wingspan, somebody like him, that is a longer wingspan than Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith was obviously a premier pass rusher. Pass rushers, especially on the edge, facing long tackles who also have long arms, long wingspans, they need to have those long arms to keep the tackle at bay so they don't get locked into that tackle. Raheem Morris sees a dual advantage because he studies the 49ers, obviously, as their defensive coordinator. Everybody, I think, if you're smart in this league, you study Fred Warner. Fred Warner is one of the taller stack linebackers that we've ever seen. He's 6'4". One of the reasons why Fred Warner is as dominant as he is because his wingspan is so long that he could crowd passing lanes, and lanes that quarterbacks think might be open are actually shut because his arms are longer than another linebacker. So you then have this kind of competing mentality amongst assistant coaches who will look at a guy like a Fred Warner and they'll say, the defensive line coach will say, I want him to be in my room. And the linebackers coach will say, I want him to be in my room because he's the Predator, right? He's got this skill set that can excel at either of those two positions. What Raheem Morris has said is, well, I'm looking at offenses that have Christian McCaffrey playing both running back and receiver, Deebo Samuel playing both running back and receiver. Why don't we just put somebody like Jaden Duggar, who's built similarly to Fred Warner with long arms? Why didn't you just play both linebacker and defensive end? Why don't we practice him at linebacker most of the time, but once a week, toss him in with the defensive ends so he learns both skills, and then invent a new position called the fever back where you're not sure what he's going to do on any individual snap. That's what the 49ers are trying to do right now defensively. That's how this is evolving. You don't know if it's going to be a 4-3 based on the personnel in the huddle or a 3-4. Five-man front is possible too. We saw, I don't want to call the 49ers defense vanilla over the course of the past 9 years, but it has had a standard four-man front 90% of the time. They have often overwhelmed opponents with talent and talent alone. There have been years where that talent has been drained because of injuries, and the 49ers have lost their way as a defense. I think Robert Saleh worked miracles last year to keep the defense as good as it was. They really tightened up in the red zone, but they still finished in the 20s last year after all of those injuries. The key to staying ahead of the curve in a league where everyone seems to get hurt. I mean, every single team deals with this, obviously, to various degrees. The 49ers dealt with it in a worse way than anybody last year. But the only way to stay ahead of the curve, to buy yourself more possessions, more points, is to become extremely amorphous schematically, to the point where if you lose some pure defensive linemen, you've got some linebackers who can give you pass rush instead. Yesterday at practice against the Titans, Fred Warner blitzed more than I've ever seen Fred Warner blitz. Robert Saleh generally didn't like the blitz. Even in seasons where the 49ers had a weakened pass rush, it was still a below average blitz rate. They blitzed the most in 2020 when they lost Nick Bosa the first time. Last year, they didn't blitz as much. Last year was kind of a hopeless cause. They were just done with pass rushing talent, which is why they finished with only 20 sacks, which was the lowest in the league. But now they've replenished some of that talent. They've got Romello Height. They're hoping for Bosa back by week 1, maybe before that. He's got the knee tendonitis right now. And now the 49ers really feel that the way that they insulate themselves moving forward, even if they're fully healthy, is to start giving opposing offenses a dose of the ambidexterity and the adaptability that the 49ers' own offense has been giving defenses over the course of the past decade. So I'm really excited to see how that might take shape tomorrow. I know that we won't really get the full picture because it's not going to be Warner out there, but we will get to see Jaden Duggar. We will get to see somebody like Larry Worth. Jalen Graham might fit this 49ers defense better than the Robert Saleh 49ers defense, even though he was drafted out of Purdue back when the 49ers were running the whole 4-3. Jalen Graham is a long linebacker, safety background, amorphous skill set. Look out for Jalen Graham tomorrow. He's going to have an opportunity. The one body type that doesn't really fit with the others is Nick Martin. And Nick Martin was drafted in the Robert Saleh year, but Martin is fast as hell. So maybe speed trumps all, even though he's not quite as tall. And Nick Martin has been taking some first-team strong side linebacker reps for the 49ers. They have a whole package for Nick Martin. You hear the 49ers, what were they saying, Mike, yesterday? I picked this up at practice. They yell out the personnel grouping. They have a certain name. Maybe I won't say it right now so I don't blow the 49ers secrets, but there's a whole personnel package that they'll yell out. Nick Martin will come out and run out onto the field. And I'm sure the coaching staff would rather me keep that under wraps. But when you watch the game on TV, you'll notice, and other coaches will notice, there are different alignments that the 49ers are going to use. I think there's way more versatility than they've used in the past. And Nick Martin is part of the 49ers plan with a different physical skill set, a more compact frame than a Jaden Duggar, than a Larry Worth, than a Jalen Graham. All right, secondary tomorrow. The reason that they signed Eli Apple today is because Deommodore Lenoir is not going to play. Renardo Green is not going to play. Upton Stout's not going to play. Malik Mustafa is hurt, so he's definitely not going to play. He's coming back off the strained hamstring. Jair Brown's at a nice camp. He's not going to play. Your starting 5 defensive backs are not going to play tomorrow. So you're going to see, I think, a lot of Ephesians Prysock, the rookie, also has a long wingspan out of the University of Washington. You'll see probably plenty of Jack Jones tomorrow, who's had a flashy camp, boomer bust kind of player, veteran cornerback. Nate Hobbs has been everywhere the last couple practices after being non-existent. Was looking for him for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden he's starting to make a lot of plays. He had 3 pass breakups the other day. Seemed to be instigating a lot of the physicality against the Titans on Tuesday. And Marquise Siegel. Now, Siegel might not play tomorrow because he technically is a starter right now because Malik Mustafa is hurt. But I think you'll see Saron Neal, who could play both corner and safety. At safety, you'll see Ashton Davis, Patrick McMorris, and Jalen Stroman, the rookie out of Notre Dame. At corner, you'll see Jacob Robinson, the second-year player who had an interception yesterday in the practice against Tennessee, Darrell Luter Jr., and then they signed Eli Apple to round out that room. The signing of Apple leads me to believe that somebody like Jack Jones might not play tomorrow for the 49ers, but we shall see. So I got to take Junior Bergen for the time being off of the kicker and punt returner depth chart. We'll see who returns some of the kicks tomorrow for the 49ers. I've got Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, who obviously is hurt right now, Will Pauling as some of the 49ers options at punt returner. Wesley Grimes, I know he's taller, but he could be an option at punt returner for the 49ers as well. Maybe that player is still not on the roster. They made the trade for Sky Moore after the final preseason game last year. So we will see. Anyway, that's kind of my preview of what's going to happen tomorrow after going through the roster news today. Now I'm going to answer a few questions, and then we're going to wrap this up. Ernesto says, would love to see Height and Duggar blitz off the edge often and use their speed to get to the QB. Well, I think that you might get what you want. Now, it's a lot of what happens in the modern NFL is relying on disguise, right? So if they can establish the threat of rushing with Romello Height and the threat of rushing with Jaden Duggar off the edge, you can line those guys up over a tackle, but then they could drop into coverage, eat turf that way, close off the flats. And if the offense, the opposing quarterback doesn't know what they're going to do at the snap, you buy yourself a massive, massive advantage because the offense is going to have to account for the threat of the rush. But then when they drop into coverage, you could have a numbers advantage on the back end. That's where the chess match between defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, and by extension, the quarterback, comes into play. And the 49ers are going to be much better equipped to succeed in that sort of chess match this season with these players. Yes, Jacob Robinson got an interception yesterday off Will Levis in the joint practice. I played it in the video from this morning. 49ers had a nice clip of that we used this morning. Somebody asking, is Mac Jones starting tomorrow? Maybe he starts tomorrow, but maybe not. I think that you've got Curtis Rourke and you have Adrian Martinez. I think it might be a good opportunity to give both of those guys a little extra run in this game. Maybe you have Mac Jones dressed just in case they both get hurt or something unfathomable like that happens in this preseason game. You definitely don't have Purdy dressed tomorrow. Mac is a veteran quarterback. I don't think he needs to play in the first preseason game. I think it's a good opportunity to let Rourke and Martinez take the reins for the whole thing. But it wouldn't completely floor me if Mac Jones played. It would surprise me. It wouldn't completely floor me if he played. And I think that the experience of Jones and Purdy probably leads to them sitting. But we'll see how the 49ers decide to play this. They have an unusual situation in that they have two quarterbacks whom both finished in the top 10 of QBR last season, which is insane, right? It's one of the great quarterback rooms we've ever seen. That's how they won 13 games despite all of those injuries. So when you have that kind of luxury, I don't think that you mess with it in the first preseason game. Do I think that Pauling or Grimes can unseat Cowing and Watkins? I think for Cowing, it's definitely a tough situation because he's hurt right now. And he definitely had not been as productive as those other guys. Jordan Watkins has made a lot of catches over this training camp. I've talked a little bit about Jordan Watkins and maybe some struggles over the middle, but still, he's somebody who played last year. I think he's got a ton of potential. He has a lot of speed. The 49ers really like his route running. And he's been on the field. He's been available throughout this training camp. And there's something to be said about that for Jordan Watkins. It's Jacob Cowing who's consistently not been available for the 49ers. And I think that is definitely threatening his roster position. Who is my surprise cut this year? Lee asks me who my surprise cut is. Geez, I got to watch the preseason games first, guys. Jacob Cowing, if somebody said he was going to be a surprise cut a couple weeks ago, then that would have been a true surprise. I don't think it's going to surprise anybody now if I say that Jacob Cowing might get cut. Connor Colby could be a cut. Maybe that's a surprise to people because just a few days ago, it seemed that people were talking about him as the greatest left guard to play for the 49ers since Jesse Sapolo, but he's never was that for the 49ers. There was hype about him, but I just played you the clip of Chris Furster saying that he didn't think that he thought there was a chance this battle wouldn't even be resolved by training camp, and he thought that Robert Jones was a better run blocker. So it's not surprising to me that Robert Jones is now in the driver's seat at left guard. And you look at Connor Colby, he's getting reps at right guard as well. So he's playing on both sides, which means that they're auditioning him for a backup guard role. And if he doesn't prove his worth as a backup guard, then I don't think he makes the 53-man roster. But I want to give this a chance to firmly play out because we still have 3 preseason games in front of us to evaluate. And we still have a whole lot more practice to evaluate. There's still about 3 weeks of this to go before the 49ers have to make the cut down to 53. Do I think that Greenlaw can return to pre-Achilles Greenlaw? He has looked really, really aggressive and good so far at practice. Now, pre-Achilles Greenlaw, he's getting older, came into the league back in 2019, so no spring chicken anymore. But pre-Achilles Greenlaw was the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. And he exceeded my expectations before he got hurt in that Super Bowl. He was insane in that Super Bowl. So I don't, know if Dre Greenlaw can be that good ever again. If he was that good again for like a whole year, I think that the 49ers would win the Super Bowl like running away with it. If they had Fred Warner and the possessed version of Dre Greenlaw that we saw for a quarter in Las Vegas in Super Bowl 58 before he tore his Achilles, it'd be done. The Chiefs didn't pick up a first down. You guys remember that Super Bowl? The Chiefs did not move past the chains until Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles running out onto the field. I think if Greenlaw didn't get hurt, the Chiefs get shut out in that game. I really do. I think it's 28-0, maybe 28-3. The Chiefs could not do anything offensively until Greenlaw exited, Oren Burks replaced him, and they targeted Oren Burks in coverage 11 times in that game. They found their weakness, they found the crack in the defense, and they went after it over and over and over again. They obviously got a special teams gaff from the 49ers when the ball hit Luter's leg. Then they got the Spencer Burford problem play later on in the game. But if the Chiefs hadn't scored a single touchdown, if they hadn't picked up a first down because Greenlaw was still in the game, the pressure would have never been on the 49ers to field that punt cleanly. The pressure would have never been on Spencer Burford to make that block because they would have been blowing Kansas City out. Just like you saw the following year, Philadelphia blew Kansas City out. I think the 2023 49ers were better than the next season's Eagles. So I think that Kansas City would have suffered a similar fate. But that Greenlaw injury, it's got to be one of the most devastating injuries in NFL history, just based on how well he was playing and how the 49ers they already had a 2-possession lead, how the Chiefs weren't moving the ball, how that turned the entire tenor of that Super Bowl was absolutely tragic for the 49ers. Do you think that Greenlaw could be good enough to again make Kelsey smash another iPad at Andy Reid? Yeah, that was what was happening. Remember when Travis Kelce blew up on Andy Reid and threw the iPad at him or whatever the hell was happening on the sideline? That was because the Chiefs could not move the ball while Dre Greenlaw was in. And then you've got the whole NFL Films mic'd up version of that game. When Greenlaw got hurt, Mahomes was firing up everybody on the Chiefs sideline saying, he's out of the game. This is our chance. Like Greenlaw did something in that game that raised his play to yet another level. And then that injury happened. And I'm sure you guys don't want to talk too much more about that. So a few more questions, and then I'm going to call it a show. Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they scored a touchdown until the special teams mistake. But they didn't have a first down until Dre Greenlaw got hurt. What will I be watching for tomorrow? Well, what I've just been talking about. I'm going to be watching for the young, long defenders. I can't wait to see Duggar, Larry Worth, Romello Height. I can't, we'll see probably a vanilla version of what the 49ers are running schematically. They're not going to show everything over the course of this preseason, but we'll start to understand how they might be used. They're going to audition some of these guys. I'm very curious to see how Nick Martin fits into the 49ers larger picture. Speaking of long defenders, Ephesians Pricesock is going to play tomorrow. Jacob Robinson, chance to make some plays. He was an exciting player last year before he broke his forearm. The back end of the safety competition should be fun. We'll see Carver Willis probably for the first time tomorrow as he's come out of the concussion protocol. I'm mainly excited about the defense in the game tomorrow. I think there's going to be much more to watch when the 49ers are on the defensive side of the ball. All right. That's it. I'm going to, show you guys the news one more time. Those of you just joining, I know that we've done a nice live here, a little over half an hour. Eli Apple, Xavier Thomas, and Zamir White joined the 49ers. Bergen, Bomeister, Henry with an injury designation. He's probably going to revert back to the IR list for San Francisco if he's not claimed. They are temporarily at least gone. After the game, I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers cut Eli Apple and maybe even Zamir White, depending on their running back needs. And I wouldn't be shocked if Bomeister and Bergen are back, but we'll see what the 49ers' actual plans are. Never declare anything firm at this time of the year because the roster maneuvers and the roster Tetris has to happen to get through games. Like right now, you need bodies, especially if you're planning to sit a lot of the starters on your 90-man roster. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Watch the video from this morning. We had a more overarching injury update this morning. We'll have some content for you before the game tomorrow. And then, of course, instant reaction after the 49ers open their preseason against the Tennessee Titans. Everybody take care. We will see you very soon.